So a couple of days back at New York Comic Con, they actually did confirm that The Walking Dead is getting a spin-off, and more specifically, it's getting a crossover spin-off, like a show, right? And this was confirmed by Scott Gimple himself. So yeah, today's video is going to be about my theories and speculation about this new series, and what characters are gonna appear, how many episodes it's gonna have, and when this thing is going to come out. So stay tuned. And now, before we actually get into the video, I'd like to ask you all to like, share, and subscribe. And again, thank you guys so much for the growth. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we have a goal in mind for 5,000 subscribers. So if you guys want to be part of that journey to 5,000 subscribers, please hit that like and subscribe button. But other than that, let's get right into the video. And now, a Walking Dead crossover event has actually been theorized by the community quite a bit. Me personally, I've made a couple of videos on this channel about this idea that, what if The Walking Dead were to have a crossover show or a crossover movie? So, it's very nice that they actually did end up confirming this. And now, by the article, I'm actually seeing that where they actually did confirm it, Scott Gimple, they actually showed what he talked about, and apparently this was supposed to be in the similar fashion how the Rick Grimes trilogy, the movie trilogy, turned into a show with The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live. And now my assumption here is that this thing was supposed to be a movie, but then it got turned into a show on AMC Plus. Now, personally, I would have had this as a movie, right? Because again, if you want a big event like this, like how Avengers Endgame is, all these characters coming together and going up against the CRM, having a big skill event like the CRM War, I would have had this on the big screen. But I could understand why they would actually do this is because the Walking Dead spin-offs are actually going pretty successful on AMC Plus, and I think Dead City and Daryl Dixon has actually set records for AMC Plus. I'm not too sure if I'm correct on that part. I did hear that from somewhere, so just correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. But yeah, Dead City and Daryl Dixon became insanely successful, and that's probably the reason why they even announced this thing in the first place, is because they wanted to see if those two shows were going to do good, and then they could press the button on this. And this is a very exciting concept because again, when they say crossover series, they mean everybody, and this counts in the Fear characters, right? This counts in the characters from the spin-offs, for example, like Laurent and Major General Beale. All of these characters that are in these spin-offs as well, they're going to be in this crossover series, and it's just going to be a massive event. And now, the thing that's actually been bothering me for quite a bit, when I actually did see this news, is that, is this going to be 6 episodes, or is this going to be multiple seasons? Is this going to be 12 episodes? Who knows? Because, you see the pattern that they have on AMC Plus with these other spin-offs. It does seem like that the show might have 6 episodes. Now, me personally, I would make this thing about 12 episodes, right? Just to, give every character their own moment. You have to give room for them to reunite. You have to give them a moment to actually establish the CRM as big as they are. I mean, they're already going to do it in The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live, but I think they should establish it more in this crossover series. And yeah, just a bunch of other things, you got to explain where some characters are. You got to explain, what the characters are doing in the Commonwealth, right? Because in the end of season 11, there are a lot of characters that we actually did leave off, and we don't know what they're doing, right? What they've been doing, right? For example, Ezekiel, Eugene, Aaron, Gabriel, and that's taking into consideration that they're not going to have their own crossover show. The Commonwealth is not going to have a crossover show. And yeah, there's a lot of storytelling potential here, and what I actually see this show turning out to be is a Walking Dead season 12, and this is not going to be called Walking Dead season 12. It's probably not even going to be called The Walking Dead. It's probably going to be called The Walking Dead something. Who knows what the title could be, right? But the point I'm trying to make here is that this is going to feel like a real season finale for The Walking Dead. This is going to feel like a real conclusion to The Walking Dead, because I did mention in one of my previous videos that The Walking Dead season 11 did not feel like a finale. Me personally, right? I'm not too sure how it is for everyone else, But for one of the biggest shows of all time, and like how much of an impact this show had, and 11 seasons, and the 11th season, like the final season of the main show, didn't even feel like the finale, right? Like even up until the closing scenes, because they already announced the spin-offs beforehand and stuff like that. And this is another point I'm going to get into later on. But the ending of season 11 was very open-ended, and it seems like that all of these spin-offs and the ending of season 11 and Fear the Walking Dead is leading up to this point of a CRM war. And now the only issue I have with this announcement here, and don't take me wrong here, right? I'm extremely excited for this thing. I'm extremely happy for this announcement. But the one thing that's actually been kind of annoying me is that they announced this before the spin-offs were done. And now what does that mean? This means that they actually ran into the same problem like how they did before the end of season 11, where they announced the spin-offs beforehand, so we already knew that Negan, Daryl, Maggie, and Carol were going to stay alive. Rick and Michonne were coming back. Like, we already knew all of that stuff, right? So then, the ending of season 11 wasn't all that impactful, because we knew that, these characters are having their spin-offs, and also there were moments where it did seem like Negan is going to die, but but those moments weren't impactful because they already announced the spin-offs beforehand. Now again, they're going to be falling into that same situation here. It's because everyone knows that the crossover series is announced, and we already know that the main characters such as Rick, Daryl, Negan, Maggie, Michonne, Carol, all of these characters are going to be up front of this show, right? So we know that they're not going to die, right? We know that none of them are going to die. So the spin-offs, are they as impactful as they should be? Probably not, right? Because again, Negan's not going to die, Daryl's not going to die, Carol, all these characters are not going to die. And with The Walking Dead, the ones who live only having one season, there was still a theory that Rick is going to die in that show, but then that's out of the table, because again, Rick is going to stay alive and he's going to be the main character of this crossover show. And also, when it comes to Fear the Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead is still going on, right? And we already know that with this show being announced, we know that Madison is going to stay alive, right? She's probably gonna survive Fear. Dwight is going to survive Fear, right? And Strand is going to survive Fear. Maybe Troy, right? Troy is the only 50-50 in there. Alicia, she's probably still alive, right? I actually do have a theory that she's still alive and Troy's just bluffing. But the point I'm actually coming up with here is that we already know that characters are not going to die, right? And so then these spin-offs seem like kind of side things, right? They don't seem as big anymore, because we already know that these characters are going to have a big Avengers Endgame type of crossover. So then the spin-offs kind of seem like more of drags just to get to that point, if you know what I mean. And now, what characters are going to appear in this show? And I think it's pretty obvious, but it'd be fun to theorize which characters are going to show up. And the obvious picks here are Rick, Daryl, Negan, Michonne, Carol, Maggie, right? These characters are the faces of The Walking Dead, right? These characters are going to be up front and center for this crossover show. And now, when it comes to the Fear characters, I think Dwight, Madison, Strand, Alicia, and maybe Troy could appear, and also Daniel Salazar. I think Daniel has a good chance of showing up here as well, and of course with that theory of Daniel having a connection with Abraham, and of course Abraham being dead, and Daniel could meet Eugene, because again Eugene was with Abraham around that time when it's actually theorized that these two met. Eugene could actually break the news to Daniel, and I think that would be a very good moment, and just to confirm that theory. And now when it comes to the other characters from the other spin-offs, right, such as Major General Beale, Jadis, right, these two characters are going to be the main villains of this crossover show. Probably some World Beyond characters, right, probably Silas and these other characters, right, and also I think that Laurent has a good chance of showing up, and just these other characters from these spin-offs. And if Croat actually does end up surviving Dead City Season 2, I could see Croat actually showing up in this crossover show. But the character that I think is going to have a big part in this crossover show, beside Rick, Daryl, and Negan, is Morgan. And now, with Morgan's ending in Fear the Walking Dead, I've talked about this quite a bit of times on this channel, and with Morgan's ending, it does look like that was the biggest hint to this crossover show, right? To this crossover series, right? Because he mentioned Rick Grimes in Fear the Walking Dead, and you know, like, the last time that Rick was even, like, mentioned in Fear was, like, you know, when, like, Rick's first episode, and probably when Morgan was trying to go back to Alexandria. And now Morgan, I think, is going to play an integral role here, right? Because, like, his whole journey is to look for Rick, and with The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live not having a season 2, I think that the opening scene of this spin-off is going to be Morgan actually finding Rick, or, you know, finding his way to Alexandria or the Commonwealth. And now, when is this show going to come out? You know, with The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon having potentially 4 seasons, right? I mean, if you all didn't know, there are actually rumors that The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon is going to have 4 seasons or 3 seasons. And Dead City, we're not too sure if that's going to end at season 2 or if that's going to have multiple seasons. The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, we already know, is having 1 season only. And Fear the Walking Dead is coming to its conclusion, and also if the rumors of the 3 crossover shows are true, right, and this being one of them, like this crossover series being one of them, there are actually 2 more spin-offs that are not announced yet, and then we take those into consideration, and you know, this is just assuming that those are 2 separate shows and not like 2 other seasons for this spin-off of this crossover show, right? I mean, like, if some sources heard that, oh yeah, I know there are going to be 3 more spin-offs, but it actually turns out being this one show, but then this show having 3 seasons, they could be hearing stuff wrong, but who knows? But then, you know, over here, let's just assume that you know, there are 2 other spin-offs that are not announced. You know, I'm assuming here that this show is going to come out around 2026, 2027, and that's the earliest we could see this thing, right? Because all these characters need their moments, all these characters, you know, need their spin-offs, the spin-offs need to conclude, and the storylines in those spin-offs, they all need to conclude and stuff like that, and the shooting process, the pre-production, it's a long way, right? And again, that's still one of my issues on why did they announce this thing so early, and yeah, it's only because we have to wait so long for it. And now that's it for today's video. I'd like to ask you all to like, share, and subscribe. And again, thank you guys so much for the growth. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate it. And y'all could expect more Walking Dead content from me in the future, because The Walking Dead Destinies is going to be coming out in a couple of weeks. And also just Fear the Walking Dead having its series finale in a couple of weeks. And The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live potentially having a longer trailer in the next coming months. You know, there's just so much Walking Dead news and so much Walking Dead stuff to cover. So yeah, you know, you could just expect this channel having more content in the future. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching.